Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Michael Cook. This is the 5th webinar exploring the functionality of Powerproject, connecting the project to a 3D model. Previous webinars are on the Solid Support website, where you will also find information on Powerproject online training courses. Remember that Solid Support can help with your Powerproject setup, templates and code libraries, programs and 4D models. Please get in touch with us. If you have a copy of Powerproject already and would like to trial the 4D BIM version, please get in touch with us. We're once again lucky to have Chris Ray with us from Alicosoft to conduct today's session. So over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you everybody for joining. I think we've just got a couple of people joining. As they're joining, we'll just start with the introductions. You're all joining through the GoToWebinar. You are all muted, but there is a section down the side of the control panel for questions. If you ask a question, we'll try to either deal with it as you ask it or at the end if we have any questions outstanding. And you can just type in there and myself or Michael will be able to see those as we go through. So today's session is, as Michael said, is part 5, and we're now looking at connecting the project to a 3D model. There's a number of packages out there that do this and different ways and approaches to do this. Within Powerproject, what we've done is we specialize with planners and schedulers, and we've approached this from their view rather than from a design or CAD view. We are a consumer of the model, so we don't generate the model direct. We expect the model to already been created, and again, different CAD design firms can do that. Solid Support has the ability to work with you to create models if need be. And we'll now start looking at that. So we'll just first of all look at the agenda, and hopefully you can see my screen updating there, and you should see what we're going to be looking at too. We're going to look at the benefits of 4D, and when we talk about 4D, we're actually talking about taking the 3D model, taking your timeline project, and connecting the two together to create a 4D simulation of what the project's actually going to look like. And then we're going to look at how we've approached it from Powerproject side to make this simple and easy to use. So we'll first off start about the benefits of 4D. So what are the benefits of linking that 3D model to your project plan? Well, first of all, it allows you to produce more rigorous schedules, so you can actually visualize and see what's happening. And that also goes in, you can analyze the schedule to assess its feasibility. Are you putting something up before the underlying structure is there? You can see if there's something in the way and so forth. In there, we can identify the problems that maybe are not visible in a normal schedule plan, project plan that you're using. And again, it allows you to automate and assist the schedule production, and we'll talk about that as we go through of how that can assist in there. It allows you to assess the durations you've got, and especially the logic that you've got in there, but also then start to assign quantities and resources. So that's not going to come from the model, but once you can start to visualize this, it allows you to take that next step and and see where how much resources and so forth and quantities are on each item, and again the logic between the relationship between the activities. So again, it gives you a more effective explanation of the schedule. What might take you hours of trawling through hundreds, if not thousands of lines of a Gantt chart can be displayed in a 4D simulation in a couple of minutes to get your point across, the information across to the client, the subcontractor, colleagues, and so forth. So again, it allows you, and so you can close the communication gap between clients, designers, subcontractors, because it can all be visualized from that side. So we'll go through this as we start and then we now look at the Powerproject for BIM or 4D concept. So Powerproject has been a market-leading scheduling tool, planning tool for the last 25 plus years in there, with various iterations of rewrites and so forth in there to fit the construction market. The BIM module or the 4D module is an add-on module to existing Powerproject, and it allows you to import that 3D BIM model and view it alongside your Gantt chart. Now we will import IFC files, so those IFC files can be created from all the main 3D packages, Revit, ArchiCAD, so forth, there can be generated. it allows you to link the activities in the model in one system so you can visualize it. So you're not having to export information from Powerproject and import it into another system. We do link with other systems out there, the other 40 systems in there if you wanted to, but you can do it straight in here, and the planner can do it in their own way. And one of the things is that planners wanted to be able to do very simple drag and drop. With Powerproject, although the tool itself is very powerful, it's also very simple to use. And we've spent time making sure it's always simple to use. And we've also applied that process to linking your model to your project plan. Again, I think I just repeated that one. Let's go there. So what we'll do is let's see this in action, and we'll open up Powerproject here. So I'm just going to open up Powerproject here. This is just a brand new Powerproject I've just opened up. I'm going to create a new project, and for this purpose, I'm going to, rather than showing you anything preconceived and pre-set up for here, I'm just going to use a standard template that comes with Powerproject. I'm going to create my example for the project. So just create a very simple project here just to show you the concepts of how this works. Now, with Powerproject BIM, in Powerproject and Powerproject BIM, you can bring in one or multiple model files to make a federated model file. The size of those models really depends on how much memory and processing power your machine has. If you have a good graphics card, just like any 3D application would need, is all relevant. So the better more memory you have, better processor, better graphics card, the more you can handle, and so forth. We're going to start off here though with a very simple model. So all I'm going to do is inside Powerproject, I'm going to BIM and go into my configuration, and I'm going to choose to select a model, and let me go into my projects here, and this is a simple one that comes with it, and this is just for our demonstrations, a very simple one. I'll show you a different one as we go from here, but I'm just going to open this model up. It's a very simple model, opens up really quickly. We can see this inside. This gives us a view of the 3D model alongside Powerproject. Now, I'm presenting to you here on one screen. I have multiple screens, so I could drag these windows across into different screens to maximize my usage, but I'm going to just keep it on one screen. So in here, I can move around this model. I can look at this model in here. I can spin it around in here as well. And as I move it around, I can see that. I can zoom into it. I can zoom out of it. I can even go into what we call the perspective mode, which allows me to have that classic. I can move in, I use the mouse or the cursor, and I can move around the building and look around. And if I want to, I'll just come back out again. So I can move around, I can change colors if I wanted to, and so forth. And I can see the objects inside my model here. So I'm just going to open this up. These are my properties here. So if I select any object, you can see that it will show me all the properties from that object. And not only does it show you the information from the standard object, but if this was exported from Revit and had user fields exported to it, they would also be exported in here. So you can get to see dimensions, areas, and so forth of those objects that have been set. And if I click on a different one in here, you'll see a whole range of different items that are selected and different available to us. Click on a roof and so forth. So I can look around that model. I can also select any item and hide that object so I can see inside it. If I wanted to, I can go to my categories and I can look at my locations of that building, and I can choose that I don't want to see those, and I might only want to see that, and I can turn off different ones. So I can look at just parts of the model or turn it all back on again and see that. So I can put that back on and I can see that, and I can show all the items again. So I can see that, and I can even break that down between the building elements, and I may not want to see the walls, so I can turn those off. I may not want to see the windows, I can turn those off. And I can take the roof off as well, and slabs off and so forth. So I can break it down as much as I want as I go through. But I'm just going to close out, see everything again, and just going to close that. So here's my model very simply in there. Now what I'm going to do here, and again, I've just started from a brand new template, opened a model that gets shipped with Powerproject to show you here. Now I'm going to say that I'm going to have my ground floor slab on the first line, then I'm going to have my ground floor walls on there, then I'm going to have my first floor slab, So I'm just going to have, these are just some key activities that I'm just putting in. First floor walls, then second floor slab in there, second floor walls in there. And what I can then do is, once I've put those there, I might say, okay, well, if I select the ground floor walls for a start, just a couple of those, I can just hold the control key down and drag that onto the walls line. And it creates an activity. Defaults 5 days, and it puts it on there. This is one of the features that our users really fed back that they wanted, the simplicity of just being able to drag and drop from the model straight onto the Gantt chart. If there aren't tasks, it would create them in there. And if I click on that, it highlights those items I've set. It also allows me to go into this mode called unscheduled product mode, which means it only shows the objects in the model that aren't yet assigned to the project. So I can see I've assigned one set of walls from the ground floor. I can highlight some more, hold the control key down, drag that across, add those to that, and I've just done that. I can do that and just drag that to there and do that and drag that to there. Let's put a roof in there. And again, if I don't have to type it in, I just want it in there, so there. So I put a roof in there. Let's put that into the roof as well. You can break it down to as much as you want, and I can then move that around, model around, and I can just say those two walls there go to that one, add those to that selection, add that one to that selection there, so that's that one there, and add that part of the roof to it. Just done very quickly and easily. I can hide my slab at the bottom and put that there, hide my next slab, put that there, and I put that one there, I put that there. And I've started stripping down. I've still got items left, but just based on what I've already done, if I highlight these items here, and let's just a moment just assume I've finished the start on all of these. You can obviously spend more time doing that. And there is my project in there. And if I go to my BIM tab now, in my settings, I'm going to set that to simulate in days, and I'm going to simulate it in 15 seconds. Close on that. And then if I play that in there, you can see it's base, then the walls, the next slab, and so forth. It just allows me to put that together. But what I can do is, when I select any of these objects, I can actually set the order that builds in. So each object inside my model, I can give a different build order. So if I've assigned 4 walls to a particular task, I can say its order is 1, 2, 3, 4. So which wall gets built in which order, or windows, slabs, columns, whatever you want in there. Now I'm going to very quickly here just do a select all and just tell it to renumber, give each one a different order number in there. It's very quickly. So when I play it now, it allows me to see, and now you can see rather than all the walls going up, it does one by one, and then the slab, then the walls, and so forth. So it gives more of a realistic view, and you can start to set the sequence you wanted to do that in. I can also then inside here, as a standard feature, I can just add in from my IFCs a simulation profile column, which you just add straight in. And I can say the slab is going to get built from the right, the wall's going to be and get built up, then the next slab is from the right, then we go up, then we go from the right. So I'm just going the direction of build in here, in there, and then the roof. Let's go backwards like that. Now I've done that, and then hopefully this comes across when I press play. You can see that actually rather than just appearing, they actually get built in the order you've asked them to do, and up and down, left or right, depending on how you've asked to do that. Now, the key here is I've spent 5 minutes with a model and no project, and I've created a schedule from this. So this allows me to start to actually take a model and build a schedule from it if I wanted to, by dissecting that model into my project. So it's a very quick and easy way and fast way this can be achieved as we go through. Now, I've done that. I'm just going to highlight those activities I've just done, and I'm going to remove those in this sense. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the left-hand side here, because it's very good dragging and dropping items onto here, but actually you may not want to drag that. I mean, this is a very simple model. You might have quite a large model. And again, once you have these models, they should be standardized of how they're built. IFC models, you know, you can say which floor level are, the type of objects they are, and so forth. So what we can do here is we can right-click on create a new IFC product search. And in here, I could say this is ground floor slab, or let's say ground floor walls inside here. And then in my search criteria, rather than me actually dragging the ground floor walls onto an activity, I can actually say in here, I want to automatically search and find, first of all, everything that has an IFC entity of IFC wall standard case. And if I look at my products, it's found every wall in the building. Go back to my search, I don't want every wall, so I add another search on it and look for location, and now I can choose from the location is ground level. So now it's showing me all of the ground level items in here. Now this is really powerful because it means using the model, and if you have a model standardized on here, you can actually allow it to open up the model, open up and find objects in that model automatically. You could template that inside your project, which becomes really powerful. So in here, if I close that, now I've got this ground floor walls. If I drag that onto a blank chart, it actually creates it, and notice it's automatically found all the ground floor walls. And you could go through and template and create those as you went through. So I'm just going to delete that. Let me just delete these other ones I created from the selections in here. I'll leave those as they are at the moment. So in there. So what I could do is I could actually go into the Library Explorer, and I'm just going to go into here, and I'm going to go into my IFC search objects in here, product searches, just very quickly in here, just to show this in here. And I could actually create all those searches in one go in here to be able to see this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say I'm going to create one there, and I would have, as we saw before, I just create it there. I'm just going to paste them in from somewhere else, but that's just as we did, ground floor and so forth all the way up in there. And if you see here now, we now have, and if I expand all of these, we have searches for all the different levels that might be in there doing exactly what I've just shown you. And I can now highlight here and just highlight all of these, right click, and actually say create tasks. So I've now just created from my searches, I've created my project plan. And again, once I've got that, I could select all of those, and I could then go to my home tab and link those together in there, reschedule that in like so. And now once I've done that, I could then run that simulation in there, and as you see, as it builds up, you see the items being built up in there in my model as it goes. And then I could add the simulations of going up and down and so forth as I wanted, and I've easily got it just done in there. So you can see there very quickly, and if you standardize and you ask your CAD design or whatever team to create these automatically and create them in this same standard format for you, it means you can have a template that brings this together very quickly. Now, once I've got this together, I've got this in here. This is just the model itself I've got in here, but I may want more to that. So what I can do is I can go back to my configuration, and I can say, well, actually, let's create a group model called, let's call it group in here. And just to show you, once I group, I can add my model into it, my office block, like so. And then once I've added my office block into it, I can open that group, which now over here is open, and the model is just part of that. Now the advantage to that, if I go into my model properties, it allows me to actually add site objects. So I can add in IFC site objects. We give you a few to start with in here, and I can choose the tower crane in there. And once I do the tower crane, I can set its position, in there, and there is the tower crane where it's appeared automatically. I can say, well, okay, what I need to do is I need to bring it down, so I need to change its vertical. Just grab it and move it down. I might then need to, let's go back to navigation, where it is, it's standing over there, so let's move it horizontal in there, so move it over there. I can then play around with it, so I can place these wherever I want, and see that's not quite on the ground. So again, and these are just ones I can play with and do things with. I can put it there, and I can even say it's going to be rotated slightly on that, in there. And again, because these are just site objects, if I wanted to, I could reduce the size of them. And there they are. And then because they're an object inside a model, I can actually drag that and drop that onto the chart for when it appears and when it doesn't appear. So very quickly I can do that. Now, this is all very good. I've done all of this, but then you're going to have issues potentially when you get your model. Let's say, for example, when you get your model, this is a slab in the model. Now, this is one slab that's been drawn, but maybe you want to split it up. So you might have this in walls or columns or anything you want to split up, but they're not split in the model. So in Powerproject, what we can do is we can right click and either split that model in two ways to make a grid split in there. We can split it by other objects, so we can split it by columns or foundations or whatever else we want, or we can manually split it as well. So if I split manually in there and click on here, I can say where I want this split from and to inside, and I can define as many of these points as I want to split an area that matches what I want to see in my split. Like so, click on OK, and now I have two separate objects, each of which can be assigned to different activities on my project. Now, if I wanted to, I could split a split object, so I can split that again. I can select multiple objects and merge them together. So I can really get into the detail. Now, we don't save this out to the IFC. This is just something for Powerproject to consume. But the advantage is it allows you to make the model your own and make it work with your project plan of how you want to build it without having to every time going back to the design team for them to split it back out for you, because that can take a long time to happen and is a costly factor as well. So as a planner, you can do this and produce these on a regular basis. Now, the next question would become is, as you go through a project, you get revisions of the model. Now, all you do is if you get a new revision of this model, you go into the properties of the model in there. So if I just go choose the individual model, this office block, go to my properties and go to manage revisions, and I just import my new revision inside here. And once I've imported my revision as a new file inside the model itself, I can right click and I can copy all the split data. So all the splits I've done, custom splits for me, I can copy them from this revision to the next revision. So I don't have to redo that work. So it's very quick and easy to do. Now inside here as well, we have features like fly past. So fly past allows you to set the camera up and where it's going to be for each object when it starts or finishes. And you can make a fly past and make many of those to show how that works. You can also in here create a video. So you can create a video of this being displayed as where it is. Now for this example I've got here is, I'm just going to go to my baseline manager and I'm going to create a baseline in Powerproject, which is just literally a couple of clicks to create. And that's now made a snapshot of my project. Now if I just delay my project somewhat and recalculate it so I have a difference, there's my difference. What I can do in my BIM side, I can go up and say, I just want to open up my comparison window. So I now have two windows here. I look in my settings and I can say that my comparison window is going to simulate the baseline dates. And the baseline I'm going to use is my contract baseline inside there. And then when I press play, you should be able to see that one is ahead of the other. And as I'm going through this, I can pause this build and I can see by this date here, which is the 11th of January 2021, the top one here is how it currently is, it's actual. The bottom one in here is how it should have been based on the baseline. And again, because Powerproject has the ability to have as many baselines as you want, there's no limitation, you can simulate against any stage in history that you've baselined. So you can see that information, see where you would have, should have been. And again, when you create a video, you can get the video to show either sideways or one on top of the other, like here, to actually show you those differences. So it's a very quick and easy way. And the advantage here is once you've linked this, the idea of how often you create a 4D simulation isn't every 3 months, 6 months, or whatever, or key stage there. You do your status update, your progress updating inside Powerproject, you will then be able to just visualize it every week, week on week, see how it's been impacted and what it looks like as a 4D simulation. When you print it, you will be able to print, you will be able to print with a picture of your model next to it if you wanted to as well. Now, on one other part here is with Powerproject, this is the paid version of Powerproject, the full version of Powerproject with the BIM module. Powerproject is a perpetual license, it's not subscription, so you buy Powerproject, it's yours for good. You buy the BIM module, it's yours for good. There is support. If you pay that, you get the upgrades with it for the native versions, or you can stay with the version you're on. But there is also, from our website, you can download the project viewer, which is a free viewer that can open Powerproject files. It also opens Microsoft Project and P6 files as well. But you can also, if your project file, your Powerproject file has a 4D simulation with it and model link to it, you can save it as a project viewer file, give that to someone, and they can open up your Powerproject file with the 3D model and run a simulation, even though they've not bought the software. But they can still rotate around the model and so forth, or look around the project. Yeah, only read only, but it gives that access to them as they go through. So as we've gone through that, one thing I'll say is this model I've shown you here is a very simplistic model. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to open up this other model here, and this is a much more complex model that you can see that I've got set up here. This is a university building. Now in here, if I just show you, this is not just a single model, and if I go into my categories, you can see my models. I've actually got 3 models here. I've got an architectural, I've got a structural model, and I've got an M&E model. So if I turn off the architectural model, you can see I'm just left with my structural M&E. So I can see that in there, like so. If I turn off my structural side in here, I can see my M&E work inside here. So I can have all of these, and these have been done by different agencies. These have come from different sources. They've all just been exported to IFCs. There we now here. If I now just turn those back on, inside there we have our items in here, and so I can see that in here. So this is a federated model. Here's linked to the activities, and I've got a fly path set on here as well. So if I press play and just show you this and see what it's set to, it's set to 45 seconds. Let's set it to 30 seconds. Sorry, it's very brief. And I hit the play button, you can see that this is now running through the schedule there. And there it is, it's running through the stuff as it goes through. And even you notice there's inside there and that one, but you could do a fly past through it. So there we have our there, and the other items haven't appeared because they just weren't put into the animation, but inside there. So it's now put in place like so. So very simply, that is the Powerproject BIM, and it's not in an overview. Obviously, a lot of things you can do. I know one of the questions, a few questions that have been asked. One of them is, can you do object animation? At the moment, object animation is not in there. It's static, but you can place the object in multiple times to animate it because you can tell it where it appears and doesn't. So I've got this in here as an example, and if I just press play in here, this will just appear in a moment. Let me just change this to not 120 seconds. Let's change it to 30 seconds, which should be faster. And if I press play now on there, you can see these items appear. Just move that there. And as objects appear and disappear, and as the building's going in there, you can see the crane is moving. It's actually just multiple cranes and we're switching between those. So that's one option you can do in there. Other questions, someone's asked, how do you move select? I'd have to find out more about that. Another one is, can you apply textures? Textures aren't contained within IFC files, so we can't apply a texture because doesn't exist inside the IFC file at this point. We are currently, as we chose IFCs because it's a general format that comes out of all 3D systems, but it can be, we are looking at including additional options as part of the next release. So that's another one that we're looking at. And for every revision, we're bringing out new features and so forth inside here. So it's a case of, and we're looking for feedback from customers of what the next things they want. And the next thing people are talking about is different file formats. So connecting or opening up Revit files or BIM 360 or ArchiCAD files or something like that, rather than just IFC files. And we will be looking at the next release supporting the new IFC 4.2, I believe, or 4.3 format, which will have information inside it in there. So someone's asked about, can you apply color codes to this? And the answer is yes, you can. So if I come back to here, I'm just going to turn my comparison window off, turn this off. There's two ways of applying color codes to here. In my BIM side, and if I go into my model properties, I've got color override. There's my background color. So if I want to have my background color a different color or set in there, I can do that. But also I can add in here and I can say I want all my walls, or not my windows, my walls to appear as this color here, for example. And I can also make it transparent in there. So I can do it that way if I wanted to, and I can do that for every object type. And the reason you have predefined materials is you might have some walls that are plasterboard and some are brick. So if I did plaster, or actually did brick in there, it would only be applying to the brickwork, not the other materials. So I can do that as I go through. Or if I wanted to, I've got over here, if I look at my code libraries, I've got one here called risk factor. And I can say, well, actually, I want to use risk factor as a code library override. And then inside on my project, if I just turn off the baseline, so I don't need to see the baseline at the moment, turn off my float and stuff so it's easier to see inside here, then what I can do is I can actually say that I want, let's say, the foundation walls. Let's do the foundation walls. I can assign that to that, that to that, and that to that. So I can start to use it, and which will, I've got those hidden there, but it'll start to allow me to see the colors appear from here. So if I do high risk to my brickwork there, and actually that high risk, if I was going to properties, I just need to set the center one to there. So that's brickwork in there, but I can set that to an orange color, and I can set that to a white color in there, and I can set that to a pattern or something in there, play around with the colors. And there it uses the middle one actually as the color, but I can set that. So I could highlight a whole group of these items in here and say they are that, so they're all highlighted in that side of it. So I can default color it, which also means you could highlight everything you've completed as green, everything you haven't as red, and so forth. So someone's asked about as well, can you cost load your program? Well, you can cost load your program here, yes, to make it so you can cost load all of this, and then you can see the cost of overall and different sections of it inside here as well. One of the other things you can do here is if I go into here and open up, I can open a view just looking at these items in here. I can then go into here and say, I want to show, let's just say, oh, I show view. So these items here are these items here. So I could have filtered by a subcontractor or a certain type of coding, and I can see just those items. I can even just do animations on those as well. What I can also do from a cost side is, we have costs inside here, and we can link these up inside here, and we can assign these to all the tasks, and I can generate a cost, have a histogram, and obviously then you have those two together. And we actually have a sister product called BidCon, which is an estimating package that actually, if you cost load up and you create these recipes for the different work you do, you can actually put those into, we've got a BIM cloud that links with it, and actually import those from the BIM cloud into here, which would mean it would assign resources and it would assign costs and people to your activities. So you have the ability to do all of that as you go through. And again, I'm looking at the moment with those color overloads, but I can just turn that off and return back to normal if I wanted to. So someone's asked a question is when Powerproject is the planning tool, the BIM is an additional module which is purchased on top of that, and BidCon is a different package. That's a sister company that one of our sister companies that sells that. But they're different purchases. So Powerproject is one purchase, the module is an additional add-on to that, but again one-off, and then the BidCon is an additional product to buy. And we can also talk to you about the different ones in there. So yeah, the costing side, if you didn't want BidCon, costing is standard inside Powerproject. So all you're doing is Powerproject and then having the add-on module for Powerproject. And also to be aware that how Powerproject works is Powerproject is not, it can be licensed in two ways. It can either be licensed individually onto one machine, or you can install a Powerproject license manager in your office and have one license or two licenses, whichever, then have it installed on as many machines, but only allowed those one or two active people at the same time, depending on how many licenses you bought. So someone's asked about, can I show an example of importing P6 in BIM model? Well, P6 doesn't have the BIM model. What I can show you an option in here is that in Powerproject, when I go File, Import, Export, I can import from, if I browse on this, I can import either P6 XER files, P6 XML files, or SureTrack files. So I can choose any of those and import those, use my own template for the formatting and standardization. And once I've got that into Powerproject, then it's as simple as that. That's basically, if I come out of that, then I've got my activities and I have my model, and I just drag and drop straight onto it. So you could use this to bring in your models, your P6 files, and then do a 4D simulation using that by just bringing it into Powerproject across. And you can also export out to P6, but obviously the BIM side, the IFC and 4D stuff is not something P6 handles, so it won't be able to, it's not part of its XML or XER format. But there are ways you could, keep a master of your Powerproject and bring in the updates from P6 and just to use that. And we've even got people that use the viewer, the free viewer, to import XER files to view, because obviously they don't need a P6 license to do it. Okay. Does anyone else, don't know if anyone else has any questions? I think we've answered all the questions in there as well. And again, for those, some people, I think someone's commented about that they're, using Navisworks and so forth, and got a couple of people saying they've used Navisworks. Powerproject, we have the BIM module in here. If your company insists on you using that, then what you do is you just literally, if you go to our support portal as a user, you can download the Navisworks importer, which allows you to import Powerproject files into the timeline module of Navisworks. Someone's asked a question is, how do you remove a selection from an activity? Well, if I select that activity, I have to go into its properties, either by double clicking on it or with it selected, just showing the properties at the bottom of the screen here that I can look at. And you can see I've got BIM there, and there is the selection assigned to it, and I can set it to none. And if I did that, that's no longer linked with it. So it's very quick and easy, and that's one of the key things here, is that we see, you know, we don't compare ourselves to a Navisworks Synchro kind of community because there's a lot of work involved in doing this. This is something the planner can do, might be initially set up, but they can do and work with very quickly. And on a weekly basis, when they do their progress updates, they can do 4D simulations. Very quick and simple. We can do in a couple of hours things that take other packages a couple of days to do. And again, yes, we are looking at different model formats and so forth, but this allows you to start off, and some might call it like a smart 4D planning, where you start off with your project, and then you start off with your model and then create your project from there, using the model on there. Obviously, your process-wise, you have to have a model ready and waiting for yourselves. So if any other questions, I'm happy to go into any other questions. If you're interested in this, do contact Solid Support. If you haven't got Powerproject, you can get a trial version of it. I think it's a 14-day trial that includes the BIM module. If you already have Powerproject, we can give you a trial of the BIM module on that, so you can actually have a play with it. This model here, as simple and basic as it is, it does come with it, but if you have other IFC files, you can bring those in as well. So.
That's great, Chris. That's about 40 minutes this morning. So we've covered off on a whole bunch of things on the 4D version of Powerproject. As Chris said, if you've got more questions, if you want help putting together a 4D file or a 4D simulation for the projects that you're currently working on, whether that be linking your program to your model or even doing a program in Powerproject, Solid Support can help you with that as well. So keep in touch with us, follow us on LinkedIn for all the updates and potentially the next webinar that we'll be hosting. So thanks again, Chris.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance. And you'll all receive an email with a link to this recording anyway. Thank you.